Good morning, everyone. Gadget here in a more intimate setup to talk about one of my most intimate lenses. Oh, wow, that was a terrible segue. That was terrible. That was terrible. That was terrible. Welcome back, everyone, and before I get started, two things I want to talk about. First, how do you like this setup? Let me know in the comments. Just scroll down. I'll talk for about 5 more seconds. Just scroll down in the comments. Just type in, do you like this setup better, or do you like the previous setup in the previous videos where you're facing me directly? We got the blue lights in the background, that sort of thing. Let me know. I'd like to know what you guys like, and we'll stick to one more than the other. The second thing I want to talk about is a lot of you that are watching are not subscribed to the channel. This video is being recommended to you because you're searching up Fuji gear, Fuji lenses, Fuji tips, that sort of thing. And if you're really in that realm, I suggest you subscribe to the channel. You will not be disappointed because I will be reviewing a ton of gear over the months, years. I'll be sharing a lot of my best practices, tips, that sort of thing. And what's unique about my content is that I bring you along for the ride. So I'm gonna be showing you a lot of my personal images. Every week we're shooting something new, we're traveling around the world, and we share that with you, and I think you guys will enjoy that and the unique perspective we try to bring to this channel. So again, hit that subscribe button and join us for this ride. With that out of the way, let's talk about the 56mm F1.2. This is Fuji's 85mm equivalent lens. It is their portrait monster. How good is this lens? Well, there's currently 2 versions available on the market right now. They have this version and the APD version, which, if I can summarize for you, gives you more shallower looking depth of field, but more softness around there. From what I understand, that might not be the best recommendation for most people. There are some people that might want that, but by far the 56 1.2 R version, just the standard one, is their most popular version of the 2. Cost is definitely one of the reasons why, but also when you do the research, a lot of you will find that this version is more better suited for the type of photography that you're going to do. Now, the lens itself, there is no weather sealing on it. It was released in 2014. It weighs a little over 400 grams. And as soon as you put that on your Fuji body, most of your Fuji mirrorless bodies, it is gonna pull that center of gravity forward. It becomes a little front heavy. But what I enjoy is coming from the Nikon Sony world. It doesn't do it in such an obtrusive way, where as soon as you put an 85 1.4 or 1.8, it makes it so that it's completely front heavy in most regards, when you hold it anyway. Now, that doesn't happen with this. It's just slightly more front heavy and not, again, in an uncomfortable way for most photographers, especially if you're coming over from heavier mirrorless bodies or DSLRs. And again, there's no weather sealing on this, and if you're familiar with the 16-1.4, where there's a manual clutch ring that you can pop down to go into manual focus, this lens does not have that. There's no clutch that you can pull up or down. It's just that ring is right there, and then you have an aperture ring as well. And I will say this, I like that. I don't know about you. Let me know if you like that sound, but I like that sound. It's a very satisfying sound. Now let's get to talking about the pictures. There's fantastic fall off with this lens. The bokeh is delicious. It is amazing, and you're gonna hear it in all the reviews that you're seeing. And of course, you can shoot it at f1.2 on your Fuji system. I will say this though, just because you can shoot at f1.2 doesn't mean you have to shoot it at f1.2 all the time. That's a friendly tip. I want to also mention that later in the review I'm going to be talking about the negatives, because I think a lot of these reviews don't focus on the negatives, so I'm going to give you my insights on that. But the images that you get from this thing are fantastic, especially if you're into photographing people and portraiture. If you're into really getting faces, this is almost a must-have. Wait, did I say almost? No, this is a must-have lens for the Fuji system. And I'm gonna talk more about why. But before I get into that, let's go back to the images. Yes, you can shoot at f1.2 and you get some amazing images to look at. I will say it again though, you don't always have to shoot at f1.2. Just because you got this lens, some people feel like they need to take advantage of that. It's not necessarily what it's about. What you'll see is that you'll quickly go down to f1.2, start taking some pictures, and even if you don't follow my advice, you will quickly correct yourself by going into that 4 to 5.6 when you're shooting portraits. The f1.2 is great, and there are times to use that, and having that, especially in low light environments, can prove to be incredibly valuable, but just go in with a little bit more latitude, especially when you're doing portrait work. For myself, when we're doing a lot of studio work and we're in controlled environments, 4 to 5.6 is a beautiful range to play with in this, and it captures amazing sharpness and detail in your images. And again, in a package that, comparing to the brothers and sisters from other systems, look how small this is compared to that. That's astonishing. Now, if you're like me, you're probably watching a ton of reviews on this lens and figuring out whether this is the right one for the work that you're shooting, if it's the right one that you want to add to your arsenal. Let me echo what you'll see in a lot of reviews. This lens is fantastic. It's amazing. The ability for this to grab razor sharp images and also deliver this dreamy fall off and amazing bokeh in your pictures, that's what makes this fantastic, is that you're not really sacrificing one for the other, especially if your technique and composition skills are up there, you're definitely gonna be rewarded with this lens. And I wanna get that out there because that is the aggregate opinion for the 56mm f1.2. And I'll say this, if there's a hypothetical situation where I could only live with one Fuji lens, as much as I love the wider focal length when I'm shooting for fun, especially for street and travel, if I could only pick one and have one to own on the Fuji system, it would be the 56mm, just because of the quality of images, but also because of the type of work, people, portraiture. If you're really focused on that, I mean, this is what I would get as the one lens in my setup. And before I go on and tell you all the nice things about this, I want to focus on some of the challenges I've had with this lens. Personally, it's all been around focusing. Now, if you're on a newer body, X-T3, X-T30, I'll talk about those separately in a moment, but if you're using some of their older cameras, not significantly older, but the X-T2 or X-H1 or anything that was released prior to that, you might find that this lens is gonna hunt and hunt often. In certain environments, I found that this lens would hunt way more than other lenses in the Fuji lineup, especially the f2 Fujichrome lenses. It would do that shifting back and forth and boom, right? There's a little bit of this shimmy and pop when using this lens, and I almost had to navigate around that. And yes, it captures fantastic images, but it often detracted from the shooting experience. When you're pairing the 56mm f1.2 with some of the newer bodies, like the X-T3 or the X-T30, there's less shimmy and just enough pop, right? It just kind of shimmies and pops, not too much of a shimmy. Does that make sense what I'm saying? It's faster. It's noticeably faster on the newer bodies with the newer autofocus system. But that being said, it is quite a bit slower than some of the other lenses in the Fuji lineup. A lot of their zoom lenses, pretty much all of their f2 lenses, this one doesn't seem to keep up as fast as those ones. Continuous focus is also a challenge with this thing, and especially when I'm using eye detect or face detect on the X-T3, if you watch the video previous to this one, you might notice it where it just shifts a little bit. If you watch my review of the top 5 accessories for a Fuji X-T3 or X-T30, I was using this lens to record that, and you'll notice the autofocus shifts a little bit. It was in continuous focus with face and eye detect, and it doesn't keep up. It doesn't keep up. When I record these videos with a 23 or a 16 like I am right now, the focus stays there. Even if I turn away a little bit, it doesn't seem like it has to guess and find out and recalibrate. No, it just locks in and stays there. But for some reason with this lens, it starts to shift. It's like it's unsure of itself, and it's like, wait a minute, and then it captures focus again. And that lack of reliability and continuous focus may be a challenge for you, but again, it depends on the subjects that you're shooting. And before 7 of you get upset and thumbs down the video, listen, this is not a slight against this lens, okay? It's just an observation based on my constant and continuous use of this product. When I watch reviews, I like to know the strengths and the weaknesses and then make the decision for myself. So with regard to autofocusing, with regard to continuous focusing, the 56mm in the Fuji lineup really does lag behind some of the other lenses available on the market. However, it is not so bad that it will stop you from purchasing and adding this lens if you're into portraiture and people work. If you're doing that, this produces such fantastic images that you're willing to deal with those headaches. Let me just correct myself there. I shouldn't even use the word headaches. It's not that painful. It's more about you understanding the nuances of the lens and working around that. You know, it does suck that I can't rely on this for continuous focus, where I can just put it on my camera, hit record, and know that it's always gonna capture my face like this 16 f2.8 is. It is a little challenging if I'm using one of the XH1 or XT2 bodies and I'm shooting in such environments that it has to shimmy and pop, whereas when I put another lens on it, I don't have that issue. But alas, this more than makes up for it with the images that it renders. Fuji has rated the focusing distance of this thing at 0.7 meters, just under a meter, you know, close to 3 feet. And I'm not gonna say that Fuji's lying, but I will say that I wish that focusing distance, whatever I get when I'm in the environment, was 30% closer, just a little bit. I think it would make a profound difference in the performance of this lens. There's times where I look through the viewfinder and I'm wondering, that's too close for you to focus? That's too close for you? But it might just be a false equivalency, you know, coming over from the Nikon and Sony world, just because their lenses are significantly larger in the 85 equivalent compared to this one, that you feel like you have to give respect to that lens and step back. Whereas with this one, because of its smaller form factor, here, let me just take this hood off. Because of its smaller form factor, you feel like you can get closer than you actually can. That might be the case. Anyways, I want to give you guys that perspective as well, as opposed to me just saying I love this lens for 15 minutes. Now, excuse me while I tell you how much I love this lens for 15 minutes. Wherever you may be in terms of skill, in terms of experience, and I'm gonna have to word this very carefully, but this is one of those few lenses that will instantly make you a better photographer. Saying that scares me. The 56mm f1.2, I will tell you, will make you a better photographer, regardless of where you are on the totem pole. If this is the second, third, or fourth lens that you're adding, it will make you a better photographer. The optical quality of this lens throughout the f-stop range, especially in that 4 to 6 to 8 range, is bar none. There's few lenses in the world that are better than this in that range. It's talked about by users outside of Fuji alone. Opening up the aperture to f1.2, you're gonna be rewarded with some beautiful, beautiful blurry backgrounds, and a lot of people will love that. And eventually, I hope, is that they'll find the range that works for them and they'll use that accordingly, you know, based on the subject that they're shooting. But the most important thing is that they keep shooting. This is one of those lenses that's gonna keep you shooting. And all these combined is why I believe that adding a 56mm f1.2 to your arsenal, if you're doing portraiture, if you're shooting a lot of faces, will make you a better photographer. I hate saying that. I hate saying that because the 50 f2 is a fantastic lens that produces amazing images, that focuses much better than this one, that has weather sealing, that's way more portable. But there are several instances where this lens optically will outperform that lens. And when it comes to portrait work, studio work especially, this is the one that I will pick up over the 50 f2. The optical quality is top class. The focal length trains you and reminds you that this is really made for portrait work and faces anyway. The focal length tells you that. It almost dictates that. And again, that wide aperture range is a huge sandbox for you to play and have fun with and really experiment. So I'll say it again, the Fujifilm, and it pains me to say this, 56mm f1.2 is a must-have lens for anyone doing portraiture, people work, studio work. This is something that will instantly make a difference in your photography. And I know that a lot of you watching this are gonna let me know in the comments that you disagree with me, and I invite that conversation because Lord knows I read all of your comments and I respond to all of your comments. I have just witnessed this happening in real life too often. And not just for me, but giving this lens to other people and watching that feedback loop almost instantaneously happen and seeing the smile on their face and their willingness to shoot more. Again, if this is the second, third lens in your lineup, you're instantly gonna become a better photographer. And that's a bit of a moot point anyway, because yes, if you're shooting pictures over and over again, you're naturally getting better. The more you shoot, the better you're gonna get. I guess what I should say is that this is almost like a catalyst to that reaction where the addition of this accelerates that learning, that growth, and really the excitement. This is the second lens I bought for my Fuji system. I researched it a ton, and it did change my life because I was empowered to shoot more, and it produced fantastic images in the process that gave me this look I didn't have before. And I'm not saying you can't get close to that with other Fuji lenses or other lenses from other manufacturers. What I'm saying is that this 56mm is uniquely positioned to give you a better starting point. If you're rooted in portrait photography, whether it's for yourself or for business, find a strategic way to add the 56mm to your lens lineup. Your portfolio will thank you, your future self will thank you, your models will thank you, your mother might thank you. I don't even have affiliate links, and hell, I'll even thank you. This lens is simply a delight to use. It keeps you honest and produces, again, these fantastic images that empower you to shoot more, to get out there and develop your portfolio. And for that reason, it is a must-have for anyone doing people work. The 56mm F1.2 from Fujifilm is really special to me. I've taken it all over the world. I've shot many shoots with it and produced really life-changing images for me, for my business, for my portfolio, and for the people that I work with. I love this lens so much that I want Fuji to make a second version of it. I want them to make a Mark II. You know, this thing came out in 2014. I'd like to see one in 2021, a version that has weather sealing, maybe that manual clutch for focusing, a switch to get a pseudo macro mode so you can get closer to your subject, maybe even OIS. I'd love to see that, and especially, you know, a modern system to focus even faster, especially in video. It's one of those rare lenses that I'd love to see a Mark II version, and I'd quickly switch over to that one. I'll tell you that right now. But until then, this queen right here is the one that rules. She's reliable, she's forgiving, she produces amazing things for her people, she inspires. Not only does she inspire, she empowers her people to go out and do more. And for that reason, the 56mm F1.2 from Fujifilm is my favorite lens in the X-mount lineup. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that review. And again, let me know if you like the new setup. And before you go, be sure to subscribe to the channel. It really does make a difference. And like I always say, let me know what you think in the comments below, because that's where I love to dialogue with you guys and really get to know you as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.